G'day friends, this is Peter Anthony. Let's begin by looking at one of the 5-step structures we talked about, which is who, why, what, how, so what. Who am I? I'm Peter Anthony, your facilitator for Master Presenting. Why are we here? So you can refresh your minds and remember what you need to remember. What are we going to do? We're going to summarize the main parts of the program. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that in the 3 main parts we looked at, which was structure, style, and confidence. And we'll do that in your own words. So what does that mean? It means that you can refresh your minds whenever you need to in your own words about the key parts of the program that we shared. When you think of structuring the presentation, there's one overarching structure you can use whether you're pitching or delivering a technical presentation or technical information. But let's look at a summary of that in your words, and we'll ask Alex and Alexi to summarize this from a pitching perspective.
We wanted to focus today on pitching from a sales perspective, but the important thing for pitching is storytelling. Storytelling is very effective for getting across our message. I'll now hand over to...
Yeah, and also we sort of learned that we kind of need to have a structure, even if it doesn't necessarily call for it. From a client perspective and all that, it's important for us to come up with a structure, how we're going to deliver a message.
Agree, and part of that structure is having an introduction, particularly if you don't know the client, building some rapport. That rapport can just be getting on with the job if you know it's a busy client. And then we move into our storytelling, the why, the why story. And usually for a pitch, the hero of our movie pitch story is the client in most cases.
That's right. Yeah, it should never be us. And there was some reference of us being, being just the servant.
The servant rather than the master.
That's right.
We were told. Now, in that story, there's often 3 C's, which is a challenge and a compelling reason for them to be in the meeting, and you want to build the pain, so really highlight the problem they're solving, and also come up with the but. Why haven't they got that solution yet? And why MetraWeather is uniquely placed to solve that for them through collaboration. And then over to you, Alexi, for how we round out that structure typically.
Yeah. Do you want to mention the Kool-Aid?
Yes. So yes, we want to drink their Kool-Aid, really get inside their heads and look at the story from their point of view. So in the case of Nine, which was an example today, they're the most trusted source of news. So highlighting that and how your story weaves into that is important.
Yeah, and then we talked. We saw some example of a structure to sort of apply and adopt, and going through a few steps. 3 steps is good. Potentially more, up to 5, but maybe less than 3 is good. And developing them, and then summarizing them, and coming back with a bit of a conclusion at the end, and bringing back our client or whoever we're talking to what they will get from us, and why we're there, and that difference that they're not getting yet. So we had we learned a good structure to apply.
Of course, you're not always pitching. Often you're delivering a technical brief or a technical update to a client. So let's hear from Rebecca and Graham in terms of how this translates for a technical presentation.
Graham and I are going to talk about how to structure or approach a technical discussion or briefing to a client, which is what Graham and I do a lot of in our jobs. We do less pitching. It's important when you're delivering one of these is to have a good opening to help build rapport, set a time frame, for example 10 minutes or less, and get your client to agree to that time frame too, double check that that's cool for them. And make small talk as we can be as simple as saying, I know you're busy, let's crack on, or you could possibly make a comment about recent weather if that was pertinent. And then you would start talking about your key message. So this would be like an overarching narrative that sort of speaks to your presentation or your briefing. So an example, the really good one that Graham came up with during the training today was extreme sort of weather variables over the next week. And it's a good key message for a lot of the briefings we do. And then following that, you would highlight, say, 3 points as an overview, or 3 signposts as sort of key messages that you would then talk about.
Yeah, and those 3 points can be up to 5 as mentioned before, depending on how weather is going on and that's going to impact for us the client and their decision making. So yeah, usually like 3 to 5 points. So for example, at the moment, main points that we're focusing on are heat in South East Queensland, renewables next week in the NEM, and a heating trend in Adelaide. So those are the 3 points we try to expand on, and then after that we would summarise those, reiterating those 3 points to the clients, maybe open the floor for any questions, and then conclude. Those are the main gist of the latter part of that structure that we've learned today.
Thanks, guys. So that's the first major piece of our program, the Master Presenting Program, which is about planning and structure. The second piece is about delivery. But let's hear from Angelo and Gareth and the key thoughts they thought were most important when it comes to delivering a master presentation.
What I want to talk to you about is intention when giving speeches or presentations. And by that I mean having points and tone in your voice which convey your intention of the day. If you're delivering maybe some news that's not so great, then maybe lowering the tone and speaking in very serious tones, I suppose. But when you're conveying some good news to the client about some work that you've done, maybe having a lot of positivity that goes with that in your voice and in the points that you're making, so that they feel that they come along the ride with you, basically. And having intentions that match what you're trying to convey. Eye contact, very important. Spreading the love around the room by giving everyone equal eye contact while looking at people, also talking to them, not just staring at them, blank pauses, and making them feel a bit weird about the fact that you're looking at them without talking to them. And when you're not talking, maybe looking elsewhere, looking at your notes, to give yourself time to gather your thought. And the other point I was going to talk about was hand gestures, having your hands high enough so that people can see them between the sort of belly and the neck region was one suggestion, to not have hands awkwardly to the side or to the back or in weird spots where people can't see them or anything like that. Having your hand gestures at the pace of your voice delivery and gestures that sometimes emphasise what you're saying. For example, if you're talking about something big, you might be making a hand gesture like this, or if you want to really convey the greatness of a point, you might put your hands in the air or something like that. So, but gestures that are relevant to what you're saying, I suppose, and at a pace that matches your delivery. Gareth, you're going to talk to us about delivery and posture and movement.
So I'll start with posture. When you're delivering your presentation, you should always make sure you stand diagonals in the room. Make sure you're not too far away from the audience and also not too close. So you don't go creepy up close to them and stand right next to them, invade their personal space. And likewise don't stand miles away from where you're presenting, like for your screen. Also on Teams, that you should probably set up your computer quite eye level with probably an auxiliary camera and microphone, so you can, and good lighting from the front, not the back. So I think that would be quite important to remember. In vocal delivery, make sure there's no ums. Wanting to formulate a sentence, maybe just take a pause and then carry on. But yeah, definitely no ums or likes. Carrying on to project, you should project positivity in your voice, and that was a vocal attribute that you should carry on with. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, folks. The third major part of the program was confidence. And this can be the most important, because you can have a beautifully structured presentation that's really well planned and have awesome delivery skills, but often the nerves and anxiety or stress of a high stakes presentation can mean when you want to access those skills the most, they're available to you the least. So confidence is key. But let's hear from Lucy and Murray and the key parts they think are most important with regards to confidence and stress in a master presentation.
Hello, and this is past Murray and Lucy coming to you. We are uniquely positioned to refresh you on some presenting skills, specifically the confidence part of the course. We're going to talk about two different things and just recap those. Those are the flow state and stress impacts. So flow state is all about how stress is actually a good thing. You can only really be truly happy when you're performing at your best, and performing at your best includes increasing your skill level and performing and stretching yourself. So specifically, it's the level of perceived challenge being just slightly higher than the level of your perceived skill, and that's when we're going to be truly happy and when we're going to be truly confident in delivering content for your customers.
over to Mary.
And moving ourselves up that graph of flow
Yeah.
state. Yes. And one more thing in that is being grateful for your opponents. It's something really important to remember, I think. It's going to help push us further and want us to achieve more, I think. So, yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about the stress impacts and some tools that we can use to get over those stress impacts. So hopefully you're implementing a lot of these by the time you look at this, and this is just going to be a bit of a refresher for you. So our 3 impacts are psychological, behavioural and physiological. So our physiological, that's our physical, we're talking about heart rate increasing, sweat, dry throat, nervousness. You might be seeing some of that right now, I don't know, but and our behavioural, that's where you might be acting out in response to stress. You might become angry or something like that, or drinking or something. And our psychological, that's where we have mental blocks and this impending doom feeling that overwhelms us. So we've got 3 antidotes that I really hope you're employing by now. And our 3 antidotes are a relaxation response, so meditation, breathing, mindfulness is the most important one there. Wiggling your toes to bring you into a state of mindfulness, because when you're wiggling your toes, you're feeling them, and that sort of brings you back to the present moment. So that's a really cool one that Peter has showed us. Distracting your thoughts, so just think about something else. As if something is really bothering you while you're in a meeting, just quickly think about something else for a moment, just to snap you out of that and take you away from that negative feeling. And the big one is learned optimism. This is where we need to turn our ants into pets. Now our ants, if you remember, are automatic negative thoughts, and our pets are positive expectancy thoughts. Right? So we're squashing those ants, or in this case we're actually turning them into our pets and turning them into something useful. So the way we do that is by, there's a few methods. One of them is disputation. So we may actually dispute our own thinking on that. Remember that our thoughts are something that we can observe. It's not us, it's something that's external, and we can observe our thoughts, and therefore we can also dispute our thoughts as well. So that's something key to remember there. We can visualize things, so use visualization like mood boards or things like that to project us into a better state. Distraction, we talked about it as one of those things. You can invite your negative thought to a meeting and defer that until tomorrow sometime, and then hopefully by then the negative thought, it'll turn up. You've got to turn up to that meeting, but by the time that negative thought turns up to the meeting with us, hopefully it's already of lower value or dissipated or no longer relevant. So, and another tactic may be to give our negative thought a name or some sort of character, just to try and mitigate the effectiveness of that negative thought.
So for me, mine's going to be called Buck, because Buck is distractingly attractive.
Right.
It's going to stick with me forever, and his yellow suit and his red tie. So yeah, it's a good distraction technique.
There we go. There's Buck. All right. So just remember, your thoughts are your choices. You can change them. Right? It's up to you. So just in summary to all of that, we have our flow state that we talked about, that Lucy mentioned. We need to get ourselves into that flow state as often as we can. That's the state that we're going to be most effective, and just challenging ourselves a little bit, almost into that anxiety level, and bringing our skill level along with that, just to get us into that flow state. And then we can turn our ants into pets. Let's really swap around these things that are causing stresses on our thoughts and turn them around into something positive, and away we go. So there we go. Thanks for joining us.
Good luck.
So that concludes our summary, or your summary, of the Master Presenting Program. Just one last thought from me. Thank you for being a great gang to work with. Really appreciate the energy and enthusiasm you took to a very compelling day. If you'd like more detail on the program, contact me at peteranthony@peteranthonyconsulting.com, and I look forward to seeing you Master Presenting soon.